So good evening, family, Everglades faculty and staff, administrative staff, Mrs. Darbar, friends. Tonight we come together to celebrate the life and legacy of Mr. Daniel G. Egnor. We're going to get this program started by the presentation of colors. So at this time, could you please stand as we present the colors? And once they present the colors, Ms. DiPrito, will come up and sing the national anthem. Thank you.
Other guard, attention, every colors. Forward, arch. Arch and arch. Other guard, move. Out, ace. East and arms.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet waved o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Okay, you may be seated. Our first speaker is our principal, Mrs. Hallie Darbar. She's going to come up and give you some opening remarks, and then the sister of Mr. Egnor, Emily, will follow her. I'd like to present to you our principal, Mrs. Hallie Darbar.
Good evening, Everglades community. I would like to welcome you to tonight's celebration of life ceremony to honor the legacy of our beloved Mr. Egnor. Mr. Egnor has been a huge part of our school for the past 8 years. He has been not only a teacher, but a mentor, a friend, a coach, and a compassionate leader. I am still in disbelief that he is no longer with us. As his principal, I knew that I could ask him to do anything for us as long as I say, "But the kids need you." And then he would not hesitate. As a matter of fact, I used this strategy a million times, and that is why he was involved in so many aspects of our school. During his 8 years at our school, Mr. Egnor has never said no to anything that I've asked him. And no matter what he did, he was a true success. He was able to build lasting relationships, as we see by the crowd present tonight. Tonight's presentation is about remembering his impact on all of us and the school that he loved. I know our hearts are broken, and that we don't get to have him with us. But I also know that whenever we miss him, we can reach into our hearts and find his presence. His positive attitude and his infectious laugh will never be forgotten. I hope you enjoyed tonight's presentation. Thank you for coming.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Mr. Egnor's little sister, Emily. I'm going to refer to Mr. Egnor as Daniel as I speak to you, but I know that he has many names. I asked Principal Darbar to let me speak directly to you today because I want to thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart for being here, whether that's physically or virtually. On behalf of myself, my family, and Daniel, we thank you for showing us your love and your grief. Along with being a son, nephew, friend, and an incredible big brother, Daniel was also, importantly, a teacher. When he was alive, Daniel taught many people many things about history, reason, and the value of finding common ground. What I want you to appreciate is that in his death, Daniel is still a teacher. That is because for many of you, this may be one of your first personal encounters with death, particularly the unexpected death of a young person. Daniel in his death is teaching you about what it means to be human. He is teaching you how to talk about, think about, and feel about death. It is a natural part of life. It is not inherently scary, although it is very normal to feel afraid. It is not even inherently a tragedy, although it certainly feels like that sometimes. I was very close to Daniel. I loved him as a brother and as a best friend. I shared an apartment in Miami with him for the last 8 months of his life. I'm here to tell you that even though my greatest fear was realized, that I'm still okay, his family and his friends are okay, and that the world keeps turning. We still feel joy and we still tell jokes. We have found beauty where we were afraid there would be none. The support of people who love Daniel is the reason that we are okay. You are all part of the reason that we are okay. Hearing from people that who knew him was extremely helpful. I know that it can be scary to talk to a grieving person, or you may think that sharing your grief with them would make them feel worse, but it's quite the opposite. Many people, friends, and strangers alike have reached out to us in the past 2 weeks, and not one of them has said anything that did not make us feel at least a little bit better. Even Principal Darbar, who graciously called me the morning after Daniel's death to express her condolences. I cried so hard at the sound of her voice I couldn't speak and had to give the phone to my boyfriend. But her call did not make me sad. I was already sad. Her words filled me with gratitude and reminded me that I am not alone. On Twitter, we found dozens and dozens of tweets from Daniel's students expressing their love for my older brother. I cannot put into words how meaningful those simple messages were. They brought my parents comfort and joy. We got to see a part of his life that we had never seen before. We got to know Daniel more fully through your words. I even got to see a video of him dancing. His students will know which one I'm talking about. The grief we are experiencing, and I mean all of us, even if you feel you did not know my brother well enough, that grief is painful, but it is also a dear friend. It connects all of you to each other, and it connects you to your own spirit. It connects you to Daniel. Now, I love science. I'm in medical school. It's the reason I moved to Miami. But in the wake of my brother's passing, our family has experienced a number of things we cannot explain. It is possible that you too, either after Daniel's death or previously in your life, have experienced things that have felt otherworldly. I don't even know exactly why I feel so compelled to harp on this point, because truly there are so many things I could choose to talk about right now. But something is telling me that I need to urge you all to lean into spiritual experiences and cherish them. It is not naive or silly to believe that Daniel's presence is sometimes with you. It is in fact very brave. Daniel is still your teacher. So when you process his death, I feel that Daniel wants me to tell you to process it in two ways. He wants you to process it practically, as a human who must live in a world where bad things happen to good people, who must learn to work through and talk about the things that feel impossible to talk about. He wants you to find the courage to connect with grieving people. He wants you to be forthcoming with apologies and quick to forgive. He wants you to be kind to each other and endlessly patient, as he always was with me. He wants you to take care of yourselves and your physical bodies. I also feel that Daniel wants you to at least think about processing his death spiritually. It is okay and normal to feel skeptical about spirituality, but I urge you to not write it off completely. Before I end, Daniel was truly, truly the best and kindest big brother to me. He was nice to me in a way that feels like he was trying to fit a full lifetime of love into 32 years. He delighted in his work. He loved all of you, his students and his co-workers, so much. I truly think Daniel is here tonight, celebrating his life with all of us. Thank you for this event you've put on today. You have no idea how meaningful this is. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Emily. That was great. Little sister. He talked to me about you. He loved you, believe me. Okay, our next person to come to the podium is a real dear friend to Mr. Egnor. She's also a member of our Social Studies Department, and that's Miss Monica Wozniak.
Good evening. I get a little taller. When I was initially asked to speak today, I said no. Not because I didn't want to honor my friend, not because I knew I'd cry incessantly, not even because the morning crowd would amplify my personal pain. I said no because I know full well that there is nothing I could ever do or say to describe him to those who didn't know him well, and nothing I'll ever be able to say to properly pay homage to the man I'd grown to know and love so well throughout these last 8 years. Dan, or as most of you knew him, Mr. Egnor, was one of the most genuinely kind people I have ever met. He always made my, and as well as so many of your, days a little bit brighter. He always knew how to make me laugh, even when I was annoyed, which, if any of you had me, is often. Even if I wasn't the one listening to the joke, that spot was usually taken by my husband. You could hear the laughter reverberate through the walls, and you couldn't help but giggle. I could go on for hours talking about his love of Seinfeld, or his obsession with sports that would see us watching multiple March Madness games during lunch. He was very happy when the school started getting cable TV. I could tell you all of my favorite historical stories about petty former first ladies he would teach me about, or some of the ridiculously nerdy historical YouTube channels we would watch together and laugh at lunch. Yes, it really is that geeky, guys. However much I could describe the fun we had together, I will never be able to capture how we all felt. He was and will forever remain my work family. The adults here know, and the kids will soon find out, that the folks you work with become your second family, and the place you work becomes your second home. You often see them more than real family, and you get to know each other intimately. You see each other at your best and at your worst. You see each other's families being built, each other's children grow up. If you're lucky, you get to see grandchildren and happy retirements. And these are the moments that I will miss the most. I will miss seeing these milestones with one of mine and my husband's best friends. Despite how absolutely gutted we all feel right now, we all have to remember that Mr. Egnor hated seeing people cry. And if he was here right now, I know he would do his best to make us laugh. So we must honor what I know his wishes would be and try our very best to smile, at least until one day we're able to think of him and smile on our own.
Thank you, Mr. Wozniak. Before I go further, I owe someone an apology. Miss Escobar, I know she's no longer here. She's actually, Jocelyn Escobar is the one that sung the national anthem. I'm sorry. So our next music selection will come from Malia to Petro.
I will tell your story. All the fears and all the glory. The tales from within these pages, they come and they go in stages, and all that will remain of stories of joy and pain. So look up at the sky and keep it all inside. It's time to say goodbye. The tears will come, but don't you cry. Tell myself I'll be alright, even if it's all a lie.
There he was sitting there with that New York Rangers hat on. And I'm from New Jersey, and I'm a New Jersey Devils fan. This was our thing. I was like 1,000 miles away, and he's got to show up in a row in front of me. But it was awesome. He got me through the winters. You know, life is tough. And like I said, he's the man that will give you the shirt off his back, except I wouldn't take it because he offered me a New York Rangers jersey. To get back at him, every time the Rangers would play, we would text smack back and forth and back and forth. And if you know anything about hockey, it's been years, but that's one of the biggest rivalries. If you lived in Jersey and you're a Rangers fan or the opposite, it was like, it's insane, right? So we would text smack on game night, back and forth, back and forth. Next day, if the Devils won, I'd come in, I'd say, oh, Rangers suck. Dan was too nice. If the Rangers won, he'd come in, he goes, did you see the game? I was like, I was throwing smack on you on the phone all last night, and then I came in after the Devils won, and like, if the Rangers won, he just couldn't even bear to think it was going to bother me to say that the Devils suck. And that's just part of the game, but he's just too nice to even, like, you know. So, the funny part is we were going to go this year and meet up at Madison Square Garden, the Devils and the Rangers, and my daughter was going to go. She always wanted to meet him. She heard about what a great teacher he was. He went to UM, and she goes there. I didn't know his sister went there. Just found out today. That never happened. A week and a half ago, or the day that Danny passed, I took my daughter out to dinner out in their neighborhood. And I said, well, we are just joking. I said, we ought to go knock on Danny's door. And she goes, yeah, let's go bother him. I said, no, I'll give him a call one day and we'll go meet him. Unfortunately, that was the day that he passed. It's just kind of weird. The part about talking smack on the phone, it's ironic that the Devils are playing the Rangers as we speak. It's on right now, and Emily was talking about things that happen. I got it written down on paper, if you don't believe me, where I said I'm going to Text him last time some smack during the game tonight. I left work today, I got home, I couldn't find my phone. I know I put it in my bag, I swear to God I put it in my bag. So I'm digging and digging, I emptied the bag 3-4 times. You know, when you lose something, you look over and over when you know it's not there. Come back to school, I don't know how it got there, I never took it out of my bag. I thought it was in my classroom, maybe I left it, it's not there. It's behind the seat on the driver's side of my car. There's about an inch of space, if that, behind that seat. The bag never left the passenger seat. I never touched the phone. So I think he's messing with me. So he's got something coming. When I go home, I found the phone. If the Devils are winning, I'm going to let him have it. Because I know that's what he would want and that's what he would expect. You know what I mean? Ryan likes the Detroit too, but like the Devils and the Rangers across the river was like, I couldn't believe that I met a Rangers fan that I love that much as a person. That's the kind of rivalry it is. See, I didn't read anything that I wrote down now, right? Okay, it's a celebration. I'm going to try to keep it light. I left my Devils hat in the car because I thought maybe it would be disrespectful. I was going to wear it, but no, when I go home, I'm going to get my phone out and I'm going to put it on, okay? Biggest thing about Dan was his laugh. You heard it all before. You could hear him this year when he started one class at middle school. I swear to God, I thought I heard him. It might have just been me because his voice keeps echoing through the halls all the time anyway. I swear to God, I thought I heard him laughing down the thing over there. It's funny, I'm trying to read this and I don't have my glasses on. Anyway, the people that knew Dan were lucky. All the students that had him, they were lucky. I used to always think once I knew Dan and how his students loved him, because they would come to me the next year, and I wanted to tell them, could you just stop with the love for Egnor now? Because like I'm starting to feel like my students used to like me, but now Egnor's here, and you know I'm having a hard time dealing with it. But they were lucky, and we were just as lucky for knowing him. Also, the people that are going to come in the future, they missed, and it's a shame. Because like you probably already know, he'd be standing up even with the virtual thing going on. You walk down the hallway, like if you don't have the students in your class and you can walk out of the room for 10 minutes if your kids were doing some work, non-stop, probably an hour and a half every day. He's up in front of his camera, talking, teaching, talking, teaching, talking, teaching. Never seen anything like it in my life. I think most of us like to teach and like to try to get through, but he was at a whole nother level. Other than when I co-taught Bobby Doyle, that was a different story though. Anyway, last thing I'd like to say is that we should all pray for his family. Those of us who experience it, we know it's tough to lose somebody at any age, let alone somebody that's young. And we should especially pray for his parents, because as I know, losing a child is the worst thing that anybody could ever do. Never let you alone, but you learn to live with it, you smile again. And I'm sure Dan wants us all to smile, keep on going the same as we've been going. I feel his presence, and I hope you do too. Last thing, we often hear people say, they're good people. They're good people, they're good people, they're good people. Well, Dan Egnor, he was great people. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Babbitt, for that eye-opening tribute. Yeah, he and Mr. Egnor, they would go at it all the time. As a supervising administrator, yes. What's that?
Okay. I'm sorry. I want to make it a little bit of so. The days the Devils would win, I had a Devils jersey in my room, and I asked somebody if they want extra credit, and all the hands would go up. I say, you put this jersey on, you go down to Egnor's room and you knock on the door, and when he answers the door, he goes, "Go Devils!" He'd never do it back.
All right, thank you, Mr. Babbitt. All right, we're going to move to the next musical selection by Mr. David Eaves.
Just yesterday morning, they let me know you were gone. Suzanne, the plans they made put an end to you. I walked out this morning and I wrote down this song. I just don't remember who to send it to. I've seen fire and I've seen rain. I've seen sunny days that I thought would never end. I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see you again. Won't you look down upon me, Jesus? You gotta help me make a stand. You just got to see me through another day. My body's aching and my time is at hand, and I won't make it any other way. I've seen fire and I've seen rain. I've seen sunny days that I thought would never end. I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see you again. Been walking my mind through an easy time, my back turned toward the sun. Lord knows when the cold wind blows, it'll turn your head around. But as I wasted time on the telephone line to talk about things to come, sweet dreams and flying machines and pieces on the ground. I've seen fire and I've seen rain. I've seen sunny days that I thought would never end. I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see you one more time again. Thought I'd see you one more time again. Thought I'd see you fire and rain.
By his students. I am sure if you were to interview his past and present students about the impression he made on them, the response would be wide and far. I am sure I can touch on a few of those responses by breaking down his last name as if it were an acronym. Yes, Egnor, as I would often address him, and so would his kids. The E represents an excellent teacher because each time I would conduct a formal observation on him, at the end of the 30-minute mandatory minimum time limit, I would close my laptop and continue to listen to his lecture, simply because he was great at making historical events feel like the present, especially when he talked about the presidents. His lectures were so detailed to where I could not help but think all the United States presidents were his BFF. The G represents his genuine compassion for teaching. As a matter of fact, I told him I wish I could Xerox him because he always impressed me with his professionalism and his love for his subject matter. The N represents his never-ending laugh that resonated throughout the social studies hallway. His humor and positive outlook on life would be cemented forever in the social studies department. The O represents an outstanding human being, colleague, and friend whom I've never heard make a negative comment about anything. Just like you said, Mr. Davis, he wouldn't do that. And the R represents his relentless drive to make his students the best of the best in our global society. As a result, his students' test results rank among the highest scores in the state and nationally. Many of his students have also gone on to prestigious colleges or universities to further their studies. In closing, Mr. Egnor's time with us was short in terms of years, but his impact on his Everglades High School family will last forever. The late, great Maya Angelou once quoted, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." I can testify that Mr. Egnor always made me feel that I mattered. And I'm sure your experiences with him are similar. Daniel G. Egnor, rest in peace. Job well done. We're back on. Thank you. And I know you all saw me trying to light each candle, and and the wind, was incorporated. But the bottom line is, each candle represents a year, every year that he spent here at Everglades High School. He spent 8 wonderful years with us. So that's another tribute to his time with us. So our next tribute will come from our EHS band.
Thank myself, I belong to you. Lead me, lead me to the cross. Everything I am for your kingdom's cause, as I walk from earth into eternity. Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest. 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 Hosanna in the highest.
Patricia should do it up, and she's going to read a letter that was sent by Mr. Egnor's mother.
Good evening. It is truly an honor and a privilege to read the words from the woman that brought Mr. Egnor into this world. To the Everglades family, we are all trying to get accustomed to the idea of life without Daniel Egnor. It is with great sadness that we learned of his untimely passing. I know Mr. Egnor loved his Everglades family. It may be a surprise to many of you to learn that Daniel, as a child, did not like school. He cried when I brought him to preschool. There were 10 children in the room, and Mr. Egnor's mummy had to stay. After the first day of kindergarten, Daniel was crushed to learn that he was going to have to go back. Nearly every day of his academic career as a student started out with asking if he could stay home that day. Imagine our surprise when he wanted to become a teacher. Daniel was naturally good at math, but it wasn't a subject he showed any interest in following as a career. I'm not even sure when history started to become so important to him. I know he had an American history teacher that he liked very much. Somehow I think she must have had something to do with his devotion to the subject. As a child, Daniel was shy, but always up for a fun time. He was a loving brother, devoted son and nephew, and a loyal good friend. For example, in high school, Daniel found an envelope containing hundreds of dollars in cash, which he immediately turned in without even thinking about keeping it. This was a theme in Daniel's life. Do the right thing. Be good to others. Be kind. Be gentle and be caring. But don't forget to laugh. I think we all miss Daniel's laugh, the twinkle in his eye, his very good sense of humor. He had often told me that someday he would like to come back to New York to teach, but over the last few years he said he was afraid to leave the school he loved. Afraid he would never find as rewarding a school. He loved all of you, and in my heart, I knew that Daniel was a Gator for life. I think Mr. Egnor's message to you would be to keep your options open. You never know what the future holds and what path you will ultimately follow. So don't close doors that don't need to be shut. Be fair. Daniel was always able to consider both sides of an issue and would have made an excellent judge. Please try and make the world a better place. I have no doubt that Mr. Egnor is watching over you and hoping that each of you will try your hardest, that you will have long, happy, successful lives. He was looking forward to finishing up his tour of visiting all the presidential libraries. Maybe someday you will visit one and think of Mr. Egnor. He was the love of our lives, and please celebrate his life by doing your best always. Mr. Egnor would want you to remember to laugh and be there for each other. Make him proud. We will always miss him.
Thank you, Ms. Shadid. I want to thank our Everglades faculty as well for coming here and paying your respects in this such joyous celebration for Mr. Egnor. I'm sure he'd appreciate it. Although he didn't want anything like this, right, Ms. Wozniak? He didn't want it, but hey, he was too great of a man for us not to, have something in his memory. Okay, our last item on our agenda is the video tribute, which was put together by Ms. Perez, as I stated earlier. So, at the conclusion of it, I want to thank you all for joining us, Everglades community. We really, really appreciate you coming out and showing your support. All right, thank you.
Happy birthday, dear Aggie. Happy birthday to you.
much. You really, you really made my day.
Of course, I'm glad.
It meant so much to me. It really did.
This is really nice.
Oh,